Hey there creatives, I'm Rita Burkett and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video we are going to discuss skin tones and gelatos. I love using gelatos in my art, especially for skin tones because they blend so nicely. And I'm pulling several different colors. I'm going to use the peach as my base for all of the colors. Simply by adding other colors to the peach base makes really nice skin tones, blush, and even lip color. I'm using yellows and reds and golds and even the metallics for these different skin tones, and they really come out nicely. So you can get all kinds of variations. So just play with it a little bit and see what you come up with. At the end of this video, I've listed all of the colors that I used in addition to the peach in this video. Now, with gelatos, you must blend it. So either use a sponge, a blending stump, your finger, or some water and a paintbrush to blend those colors together. So I pulled a few gelatos and I'm going to use them to do a loose drawing. I'm using the gelatos in two different ways in this video. So this loose drawing is the one way, and I'm not worried about lines or making anything perfect. It's just a very loose sketch, but you can see I'm using a sponge to blend those colors together. I'm using watercolor paper, so there are some textures on the watercolor paper and that will show through if you don't use gesso. I didn't use any gesso, any type of priming on this paper, and I wasn't worried about it because it's just a very loose, folksy kind of drawing. Now, if you're concerned about lines or the gelatos making those textures underneath and you don't want to see them and you want something very smooth, I would suggest to you two things. One, to gesso your surface and then add your gelatos, and you can use gelatos on a palette or a paper plate and draw it on there and then pick up the color that way with your sponge or with a wet paintbrush and then transfer that onto your paper, and that way you can get a little bit more control. Now sometimes I think it doesn't matter. I think that handmade natural look is fine. And that's what we're going for in this first drawing. In the second one, I'll show you something a little bit more controlled. Now, on here, I just wanted to let you know that everything that I am putting on the paper is all gelatos. So sometimes I'm blending with a sponge, sometimes I use my finger, and right now I'm using a paintbrush, dipping it in the gelato color and lining those eyes. So everything that you do with paint, with markers, with pencils, you can do with your gelatos. You just want to remember to blend it. One of the other things that I love about gelatos is that you can layer it. So once you have the first layer down, and you saw that I did the sponge layer and then I added another color and I blended it with my finger like I'm doing now. As you go and as your art is developing in front of you, you can see, oh, okay, over here I need a little bit more color, or maybe I need to change the color a little bit. You can add a different color or the same color that you already have to create some depth in your art. I also happen to use my Pitt pens on top of this just so that I can get those fine little eyelashes and a little bit more color. Now for this one, I had already done this in charcoal, and so I thought it would be kind of fun on top of the charcoal to add some color. And because the gelatos blend so nicely, we are able to do that. Now, I will give you a heads up, a warning, that the charcoal does move unless you happen to have sealed it already. And so you do see some blending with the charcoal and the gelatos, which is why you're seeing those dark colors. But for me, it was just a fun challenge, and I went ahead and I just went for it. Now, if you want to, you can seal it first and then add your gelato colors, and then you won't see the dark. But sometimes it's kind of fun to just play with those dark colors and see what you get. So I'm adding gelatos, and most of the facial colors I did just blending with my finger. Now when I got into the lip area, I knew that the gelatos and my fingers would be probably too thick to get those nice colors on her lips and not go all over the place. So I went ahead and used a paintbrush, and I'm using the paintbrush also to get into those smaller areas where the gelato or my finger probably couldn't fit. So even if you blended it with your finger or your sponge, you can go on top of it with your watercolor and get those tiny areas. I wanted the color to really pop on here, so I'm adding a couple of different colors of gelatos using the pastels and the metallics. And although you can't see it on the video, the metallics have beautiful shimmer to them, and they look really pretty in person. I am going back in with the charcoal pencil just to add details to those big giant eyelashes that I wanted to have there. I also went in on her forehead with a wet paper towel and just kind of lifted some of that color because it was so dark with the charcoal mixed with the gelatos. And I'm adding the gelatos back in, blending it with a wet paintbrush. And I'm going to do the same thing under her eye because that just seemed a little bit too dark. And I'm just lifting it with a little bit of water, wiping it on my paper towel, and then blotting that area with the paper towel to just kind of lift some of that charcoal and adding the color back in so that it blends nicely. So here's the finished result. I hope that you liked these techniques in these videos and that you'll give this video a thumbs up. Here are the colors that I used. You can pause this and take a screenshot of that. I wanted to also share with you all the beautiful different colors that the gelatos come in and give you the links if you wanted to get your own gelatos. And make sure that you know where you can find me, Rita Bearcat at ritabearcat.com. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.